Hi, this is Ada.
And this is Stephen.
And welcome to Living Simply in Mexico. This is our part 2 of Living Simply in Mexico, and this is a continuation of these little bits and pieces, these barriers that people may have to coming and living here in Mexico. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of those barriers.
Should we go for the bowl?
Sure. So what we put in this bowl are some objections that are some very common ones, and some of the ones that we had to why you shouldn't necessarily, why would be stupid enough to actually live and buy a place, buy a house in Puerto Vallarta.
Exactly. And oh, by the way, you know, it's fun watching these YouTube videos and when people like log off of the video. And so we have not scripted this. This is really just a few things that we just wrote up. And so I'm curious to see what Ada has to say. I'm sure we'll make comments on each other. But I'll be curious to see if people drop off here, if they're really interested in this stuff. So anyway, without further ado.
This objection is time and flexibility, which I just started talking about. So usually the big thing is like, well, first of all, is it the right time? And I'm kind of like, is it ever the right time to do something, right? And that just comes from where I was just at. It's like, yeah, we're here, and as I mentioned, we're where we're at. But I know that, once again, it's like, from a time perspective, it's like, yes, we're at the peak of our careers. We have a middle schooler. She's at a point where she's going to be doing more extracurricular activities. And so, you know, if we do something crazy, are we enhancing or taking away from her life? And we're enhancing it, I think, giving her exposure to, you know, another language, her third language, because she's already, of course, she speaks English. She's been taking 5 years of Mandarin, and now Spanish is going to be very much in her life. So, you know, from that perspective, we're like, hey, this is just another way to enhance her life. So from the time perspective, is this the right time? I think it was even, I mean, why not?
Well, I think there's no right time when there's no wrong time, right? The way I see it. And apologize, I think there's frogs now in the background, so it's all good. But there's a couple things with that as well. And just to provide a little context, you know, we both have our jobs that we work, some entrepreneurial efforts, some working more tightly together with people. And so we have that currently. So we're still generating money. But at the same time, when people live, it's like go to college, get a job, date, get married, have a pet somewhere in there, and then go buy a house, work, then retire, and then move to say a place like Puerto Vallarta, right? And so that's the typical mindset. And since we don't plan to retire, you know, we needed to have another way of trying to figure that out while working. And so we currently, you know, we're down here monthly to the level that we can. We work from here when we can. Sometimes we can't, and so we go back and forth. So this is the context of our lifestyle.
I think when we're talking time and flexibility, so for right now, like you said, we're making the effort to come down here every 4 to 6 weeks. We can come down here more often. Our daughter, since she's still in school, well, this is where, once again, from a timing perspective, we're like, you know what? We still have, the grandparents are still able to help out.
Yes.
And so we're taking full advantage of that while we can. And also she's just more independent now and is able to do a lot more on her own. And including, you know, she cooks because I don't. And so, you know, there's something to be said about we've raised a very independent daughter. Because of probably my failings as a mother. But the thing is that overall, from a flexibility standpoint, like I said, you've got to be in the mindset, and we already were, that creating your job situation in a way that you're already thinking about how am I going to diversify my time and my earning potential. And I'm a physical therapist. That's about as hands-on as you can get. But I've managed to do it, you know, and I own my own business. But the thing is that what else can I provide? And that's where I do online work. So it's really think about how you can diversify your own professional portfolio if that's something that's of a concern to you. So
absolutely good. So mine.
Yeah,
let's see what I'm getting. Oh, this is a long one. Healthcare. All right, that's a really interesting one, and frankly, that's one of the things that's keeping us in the U.S. at least a little bit for now. and this is a huge topic, so we'll touch upon it a little bit. We've got a PPO in the United States. It used to cover us. They just, the healthcare is crazy expensive in the United States. We keep on cutting benefits. And one of the benefits that they just cut is healthcare in Mexico as one option. And as you get older too, Medicare does not cover folks here either, so you have to go back to the States. And so it's quite amazing what some people will do in order to get by with healthcare. The good news is there is quality healthcare in Mexico. Worst case, you can pay cash for it, and I would say in many cases that's probably what your deductible is in the United States. And so that's one thing to consider. There's also insurance that what we have is sort of the traveler's insurance that will last a year, really inexpensive, and that really covers if we really get sick. It'll cover any cost here in country, and it'll also fly us back to the U.S. where we have our typical insurance. Now, longer term, if we do change our work life at some point, we can't afford, thousands of dollars a month in insurance, then we may want to consider just getting regular insurance here in Mexico, which, as far as I'm aware, is a lot cheaper than in the United States, and you can still get good quality care here.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Your dollar goes a lot longer here. So, like I said, there's, especially in a community like Puerto Vallarta, where I think the population, and I don't know, my stats might be wrong here, but the population is like 280,000 or something, and of that, it's like 80,000 expats at any point in time or something that are here. It's a really large percentage of people that are not from here.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's, part of the thing is that, some of the people that are down here are those healthcare professionals, including me as a physical therapist, right? So, it's one of those things where there are quality people down here. It's just a matter of, I think we'll explore that a little bit, like I said, in another video, and also when we get to that point.
There's a huge topic on that. But the thing is yes, you can be afraid to come down here, what happens, they don't have insurance, that sort of stuff. Number one, if you're doing it just part-time, get the insurance that'll allow you to fly back. It's really inexpensive. If you're down here longer term, consider some local insurance, or consider to have some sort of savings just to pay cash. Because unlike in the United States, that in some cases is an option.
Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll go to the next one here. Safety. All right. So a lot of people are really afraid of, coming down to Mexico, because you hear about, there's things that are talked about from our very top of the country, I won't get political. And then there's also just, there's travel advisories when things happen. Well, the crazy thing is that, we're from the Bay Area. I mean, if we cross the bridge into Oakland, we're more likely, or for that matter, just getting on the freeway, we're more likely to die or get seriously injured than being down here. So it's, for one, we don't have a car down here. We use Uber and taxis and the bus to get around, and we walk a lot, and we walk at all hours. Just last night we were coming up here, and it was 11:30 at night. We went to the grocery store, and we just took a cab back part of the way, and there was a tow truck blocking the road because something was happening. Who knows what was happening? We just had them let it out, and we, walked the next, 10 minutes or so, and we feel completely safe. So the thing is that, like any neighborhood, you do have to be street smart, but, Puerto Vallarta it's definitely a part of Mexico that I have not encountered any issues with regards to feeling unsafe. I think I've never had anybody say, go back to where you came from here. Which isn't, I can't quite say the same in the U.S.
That's political.
And so that's a little political. But seriously,
that's true.
The locals embrace
the local
us.
people are very, very nice here, and that's wonderful about living here. Absolutely.
Right. It's you could think about the fact that we're here, we're kind of overtaking their city in a way, but at the same time, they're actually very grateful because this is part of what's keeping the city alive. It's part of the economy. And we feel very welcome here. So tourists and expats in general, safety is a non-issue for people that are here, so long as you're paying attention. If you decide to go off and be crazy and drink too much and be, staggering on the streets, you might have a little different experience. But in terms of our situation.
The one thing I would like to add to that just a little bit is, yes, there are some very tough parts of Mexico. Yes, there's these drug wars that are going on. Stay away from those areas. That's all you need to do. Here locally, traveling around, you're perfectly fine. Just stay, don't sell drugs, don't buy drugs. You'll be fine there. And then secondly, on top of all that, is it's a different type of safety. I feel as safe or safer here than I do in the San Francisco Bay Area. But you have to watch yourself. When you're walking down the street, you got to watch for that pothole that you could fall through, right, and severely hurt yourself. So you have to take more personal care in that sense.
Crossing the street.
Yes, exactly. Things like that. But as long as you do that, that's something that you have control over.
Right. I think it does come to awareness of your surroundings, and that's something that was great on the potholes.
It's true.
It is true. It's like if you're walking along and suddenly the sidewalk ends, or there's a huge hole. So infrastructure, that's
exactly.
something to be worked on.
Should I see what I'm getting here?
Okay.
Stress. Yes. It's stressful to have something in a foreign country. People are going to rip me off. Well, how am I going to deal with the contractors? How am I going to pay my water bill? What if someone steals something from my house when I'm not here? What's really interesting is we have an old sailboat, and one of the things that we were thinking about doing longer term, a little sidetrack, was to sail around, sail long distance, things of that nature. But to me, although we still love our sailboat, the really old sailboat, it's stressful to have people's lives at stake. And so, especially it's stressful with a wife that gets seasick and doesn't want to do it either. That's part of it. But anyway, what's interesting about stress here is, there's really nothing stressful about what we've done. And I made a point personally, and Ada has too, to not stress. If we're investing and we're doing it, this is our lives. We should be having fun. And that all led us to Puerto Vallarta. So there's always things to worry about, and you just have to ask yourself, do I have control over it? If something really bad happens, is it going to stress me out? Like, for instance, we live very simply, living simply in Mexico. So if someone would break into our place, what are they going to steal? Our refrigerator? Utensils? There's really, we're not stressed about it. And so those are some things. But if it does worry you about being down here, about buying property, about dealing with someone maybe in a foreign language, or we'll talk maybe about that later, those are things that, maybe this is not right for you. But if you enjoy it, if you're not worried about it, if it brings you pleasure, by all means do it. There's no better time than now. If you have these, you thought about it and planned ahead of time. Any other comments with stress?
Yeah, I totally have a comment on stress. So going back to the living simply is that the more stuff you have, the more stress you have. Yeah. And interestingly, once again, we kept life simple down here and basic, and it's amazing how much just more fulfilling it is when you realize how much you don't need back home. Yeah. And it's actually made us, when we go back home, really start decluttering and giving stuff away. And it's like, we don't need this. This is just extra, it's extra stuff. It's still the whole storage unit industry really boggles my mind that people pay to store their stuff. And that's stressful. But going back to the issue of stress, how having our house here has really diminished our stress.
Totally.
Back when we're home is the fact that we know that we're coming right back down here. And it's a known quantity, but it's still a different thing in our lives. So it's exciting, it's different, but it's the same in a way. So it's kind of weird. We have all these things sort of wrapped up into one. But with that, it's like, every time we're at home and we do sit down and watch a video of Kinnens or somebody on YouTube, and we're like, they're down there right now, and we were just there. And it just brings down our general stress levels. So Absolutely. It's definitely, I have to say, it has reduced our stress tremendously, not increased it doing that. So stress is something, like you said, if that's a barrier, you just have to consider what is it that stresses you out. If you like your stuff, it may not be for you, but that
you're trying to protect all your stuff.
If you're trying to protect all your stuff, that could be stressful. Yeah. We don't worry about it.
One thing I want to mention on this one, and this is definitely not a positive, is I'm still working. I'm working when I'm here. I'm working when I'm traveling. I'm working when I'm at home, whether that be U.S. or Mexico. And it can be a little stressful when you're working in an environment where a lot of people are taking vacation or having a good time. And so that is one thing personally that I'm still getting over, actually. But I'm getting there. I'm still working, and I'm working hard. But you've got to compartmentalize in that situation, and it's getting there. But I just want to mention that just as a realistic comment.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so another one.
Okay, food and water. So here's the thing. And actually, we did a video on water quality and drinking the water here in Puerto Vallarta, which actually has some of the best water in Mexico, if you're in Puerto Vallarta, like the city of. And so watch that video for that information. So we have never had any problems getting sick with the water. We do have a little filter, like I said, but a lot of people do, just in case.
Yeah.
But that's not been an issue. Food. You know what? The food here is so inexpensive in terms of what we found is actually cheaper to go out every night to, and the restaurants here range from, street tacos and street food, which is amazing, to really amazing high-end restaurants, which are, internationally recognized. And the thing is that, and then a bunch in between, and we're usually, our average is, doing stuff in between. And it's cheaper for us to eat out every night than it is for us to go shopping, prepare food back in the States. I mean, here, if we prepare our food, it would be super, super cheap. I mean, really, really cheap. I think I got a bunch of cilantro the other day, and it came out, it's like 7 cents, right? Compared to, it's like, probably $2.99 in the States. So, it's one of those things where if you love to cook, this will be a great place because the ingredients are so fresh. If you don't like to cook like me, you go out and you get to eat amazingly fresh food.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the two big downsides to food are I typically eat a lot of chips and have one beer. And I usually don't eat that many chips and drink that much beer at home. And so being here more frequently, I have to figure out how best to handle that situation. But that's a personal issue on my side.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is you also there's a lot of healthy options. So our daughter is vegetarian, and she's really picky about her cheese. So a lot of times we actually get the vegan options at some of the local restaurants. There's some really good vegetarian and healthy restaurants that are here. And a lot of restaurants actually do have a vegan and vegetarian option on their menus because they know that there is a need here for it because of who's coming down.
Yeah, and a shout out to a couple places. Everybody shouts out Salud Superfood. They're awesome with food. That's a lunch place, more along the lines. And then there's Vegetalia, which is just down the street from us, and it's just the local chef, and it's just awesome. And I'm not a vegetarian myself, but it's awesome vegetarian food.
He plays on TV.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for the next one.
All right. Language. Yes. I was born and raised in the Midwest. I have 4 years of high school Spanish. Yo hablo un poquito de vez en cuando. It's gotten better. It's gotten better, right?
It's gotten better. His Iowan accent is improving.
Yes, and the thing with language is if you may be a little fearful of contracts and things in Spanish, just get someone to help you out with that. Getting around in Puerto Vallarta with English is relatively easy. They're used to tourists here. The other thing I think also is, just because you can always speak English and try to get around doesn't mean you have to. So try to learn Spanish. I would love to be fully fluent in a decade. It may take me a while, but I would love to be fully fluent in Spanish. I think personally it's a benefit versus a problem, because when I'm up in the United States, that's one life. When I'm down here, I feel like fully immersed in a different life, culture, and language, and it's so enriching. And I think over time, as I grow older, that my brain will like me for learning more of a new language.
Yeah, and really, where we live here in the downtown area, our neighbors above and below us are, native Puerto Vallarta, so they don't hardly speak any English. So it really gives us the opportunity, to say, hey, come on over, we say this in Spanish, of course, And we had the opportunity to, try to practice and communicate, and even if it's a little bit of, a little bit of body language along that to get the point across, it's a lot of fun. The other thing is if you are worried about, you don't want to be lonely and you want to make sure you have a community, there is no problem finding other English speakers that are here. I just walked up to somebody today, just commented on a really interesting drink they had at one of the local places here, and we had this full-on conversation. I ended up inviting him to our table, and we spoke for quite a while. So it's so easy to meet people, and so don't let language be a barrier to being worried that you're not going to find a community, because that's definitely not an issue.
And there's a ton of Facebook groups out there that are specific to Puerto Vallarta that are really good too.
Right.
So, anyway.
Okay.
Yours? Who knows?
Okay. All right. Retirement.
Yes.
And let's see, I'm not quite sure in the context of this. I'm trying to think of...
Should you wait until you retire?
Should you wait till you retire before you do something? No, because you don't know what's going to happen in your health. You don't know what's going to happen with your extended family. There's too many ifs, and I don't want to wait, because what if something happens and I don't get a chance to experience it when I could have. So for me, the retirement thing, and we knew that we weren't going to ever retire. So, like I said, not to say we're going to work the same level and capacity, but it's just a different mindset. Not only that, down here, let's back up a minute. We're here in 2019, and it's so easy to be able to do things where you're able to work remotely.
And easy to fly in and out too.
It's easy to fly in and out of here, and it's flights are relatively inexpensive. But the thing is that there's just opportunities to diversify what you do if you're worried about I still need to work. But actually, if you're retired and maybe you're thinking about I don't know if you're retired, you have all sorts of time, so you shouldn't have any restrictions there. So I don't know what you want to talk about.
Well, I think that one of the things on retirement that I saw in just the YouTube responses that we've received so far is, I can't wait until I'm at a point in my life where I can do that, right? And the one thing that I would say is there's two mentalities you can take. You can take the mentality, I can't do this because of X, Y, Z, whatever. And then there's the mentality of I can do something, let's try to figure out how to do it. And so there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. In our case, as mentioned earlier with the sandwich generation, dealing with parents and a child and work and everything. The way I see it, in my lifetime, the world population has doubled. And there's only, so number one is if you wait, you may not be able to afford it, to be here. I don't want to make this big rush to come down here or anything, but since it's so inexpensive to own and maintain a house, and since we could afford this type of house that we purchased, since it is so inexpensive, then why not do it now? Because then now we know we're always going to have a place here. So that's been great.
Yeah, I mean, talking about housing expense, I mean, it's and just fix, if you're retired or you're, there's the waiting until you're retired, and then there's the I'm already retired. If you're already retired and you're on a fixed income, it's like, well, your dollar goes a long way here. But yeah, to your point, if you shouldn't make I'm going to wait until I retire as a thing, unless you're like literally you're super close. I can understand that.
You've got a pension that you're
right.
in for.
But if you're, like I said, you're someone like us, and you're you're midlife. You're maybe at the peak of your career, but you're trying to figure out, what's going to change. I think if this is something that you would consider, once again, what can you be doing to diversify what you're doing right now?
Yeah, and I think there's one left. That's a good one. This actually dovetails in quite nicely. Money. So money is an interesting one, because I'm sure that a lot of you have heard the old sayings about, this person that's really rich and he goes down on vacation. Someday I'm going to move down here if I just had enough money and did all these other things. And then you've got the poor fisherman that's been there all his life, and it's like, well, I'm already here. There's a long story there. But the key thing is, you also to take a look. This actually ties in a bunch of other stuff with healthcare, with having stuff, with all these other things. You can, if you reduce the costs in your life, and if you live simply, i.e. living simply in Mexico, you can do a lot more things than you really think that you can currently. And like our house is the price, and people have asked us this, of a fancy car. And so some people say, oh, I wish I could do that, I just need the money, and they could buy a car that's worth already the price of our house. And so the question is, are you comfortable? Do you have all the things that you want to have? If you want to have everything fancy and spend a lot of money and all these other things, then yes, you're going to have a lot more money. But if you want to live simply, you absolutely can. And so that's what I would say. It's more about the lifestyle. And I think you came up with the phrase, what's money worth really?
Well, I was going to say, it's really, what is the value? I think about, it's not about does it cost too much, is it, what is the value of something? And what is the value of being able to live, and do things that bring you joy?
Yeah, I was thinking another one. I was thinking the options.
Oh, money is a unit of choice?
Yes, that's the one I was looking for. Sorry about that.
That's okay, I didn't know where I was going with that one. Money is a unit of choice. Yes, the more money you have, the more choices you can make. That's absolutely true. So money does, drive things. But that being said, going back to the value, it's like, well, it's also the choices that you make. And for us, having stuff and fancy stuff has never really been a big part of our lives. It's just stuff, and like I said, it adds stress. Why? Usually you're buying more stuff because you want it, or I shouldn't say you, but people are buying things because it's status. And for me, I see status not so much as what stuff do you have, but it's like what experiences have I made, have I had, and it's not even that's a status, but it's like what brings joy, what's valuable to me, and its experiences. So
and on that front, I did want to make one final comment there. You've got the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Sorry to get all psychology on us there, but whatnot. But there are people in this world, people in Mexico, people in the United States that do not, and it's getting more like this lately, unfortunately, that do not have enough money to live, to feed themselves, to find housing, things of that nature. So understand that and value that if you're watching this and you're thinking about, hey, should I move to Mexico? The assumption is you're above that level, that you are fortunate enough to have money in some cases in order to have more options in your life, have a unit of choice to come and down here and see that. So with that being said, there's so many options from having enough money just to live a basic life, a wonderful life down here, or having a lot of money and living in a beautiful place, that's with surf crashing at your doorstep. It's really a matter what you want, but don't let it. If you do have the wherewithal to make some money to be down here, don't let the money situation say I can't do that unless I have X many millions in the bank, because you may never make it.
Because you don't need to buy something.
Yeah.
You can rent very easily, and this is the thing.
Yeah.
This is why we're going to circle back to Barry Kessler and his podcast. Like I said, he's been coming here regularly since 1980. He doesn't own. He comes here and he does Airbnbs. He stays at local hotels. He knows the people. And it's just one of those things where you can make it a part of your life in a way that doesn't ruin your wallet. It's all about like what you value.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I think that's sort of wraps up. This will be probably one of our longest videos ever, and a lot more personal than what we usually do. But for the people that are thinking about moving to Mexico, or specifically moving to Puerto Vallarta, you may have very different circumstances than we do, but we're hoping that this will give you some information to think about as you plan your future. Do you have anything else to add?
Just make sure that if you have anything that you want to comment on, that you would like to hear about, or something maybe you weren't clear about. And remember, this is our perspective, and all we're doing here is sharing our perspective.
Yeah.
We know that our lives are not the same as other people's lives, and everybody's coming from a different place. But what we hope to do is to be able to shine some light on what life is like down here and what it can be. And if you have any questions on that, put them in the comments, and like and subscribe, because we'll continue to have more videos up, and hopefully, like I said, give a little bit of the perspective from some Generation Xers coming down here and living the simple life in Mexico.
Absolutely.